जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर. You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be these cheap clothing.
என் பேர் மாணிக்கம். எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு.
Talking to me?
Queen is dead.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Welcome back to Queen is Dead. We have Dhruv with us, and we have a guest on the show, Aryan Vyas. Aryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aryan Vyas and I'm pursuing my bachelor's in physiotherapy. And along with that, I also post about films. I talk about films and occasionally I do film essays on my Instagram, which is called Aryan Talks Films.
So you run a film Instagram page, right? What's the name of that page?
It's called Aryan Talks Film. Very simple and very basic, yeah.
And how did you get into watching films and talking about films in general?
Yeah, ever since I remember, I've always been intrigued by the visual mode of storytelling more than any other art form. So yeah, I always had this desperation in a sort, for the lack of a better term, to talk about films and to have this feeling of belonging to a community and be a part of something like this. So yeah.
Okay. So today we are talking about the best Hindi films that have come out in this year, which means the films that have released in 2021 on OTT platforms and or theaters, which have been barely any. So yeah, and in general we'll just talk about what is the general state of Hindi cinema, which in my opinion has gone down massively. So yeah, we'll go with general initial opinions that you all have. So yeah, Aryan, you go first.
So the films that I personally really enjoyed this year, the Hindi films to be more specific, were I guess the year started with The Disciple finally releasing, but I guess that's not an Indian, like it's a Marathi film. But that's the film that I vividly remember ki I loved watching that film. But when it comes to Hindi films more specifically, I appreciated Sandeep or Pinky Farrar, even though it had its own issues and structurally it didn't flow properly for me. But then there was Meel Patthar, otherwise called Milestone on Netflix, and it's partly in Punjabi as well, so not strictly a Hindi film, but it is considered as a Hindi film, and it's a proper indie film. So I really like that one, especially the cinematography and how it captured the Delhi NCR region through its atmospheric cinematography. Yeah, so that, and then there was the short film anthology series ka part Gili Puchi, directed by Neeraj Gevan, and I was really in awe of that film because just in 43 minutes he literally sets up so many themes and there's so much going on, and yet it's so subtle, and it could have been so in the face and it could have been very preachy, but it was very well handled, I guess. And personally, the best film that I think when it comes to Hindi cinema, I loved Ram Prasad Ki Tervi, which was the directorial debut of Seema Bawa. I loved that movie, yeah.
1 जनवरी को होगी
कौन आएगा 2 जनवरी को भी रख सकते हैं।
13वीं तो 13 दिन होगी ना।
1 जनवरी फिक्स है।
31 दिसंबर को लोग जश्न मनाएंगे और अगले दिन नए साल की शुरुआत किसी की 13वीं से करेंगे क्या?
आज बताऊं
I mean, I don't know what to think of the fact that we'll all come to a conclusion where we'll have very similar favorites. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, in the sense that there's no unpredictability in who is making good films and who's making bad films in Hindi cinema. So I mean, I'll start off by saying I've seen very little films actually. I've seen 16 Hindi films, which is barely anything, I think.
That's way more than
No,
the
but I
ones
think
that
it's
I've
still too
watched.
less. Maybe it's just the fact that OTT releases less stuff and everything. But yeah, there's just been a lot of stuff that I'm genuinely not interested in watching. We'll get to the state of it, but from again, the favorites are whatever Aryan, a lot of them I share with Aryan actually. Ram Prasad Ki Tervi I just watched yesterday, so for the first time, and I thought it was quite lovely. I think I didn't expect it to be that melancholic, which is Sanjeet. I know you use that word while describing it also, but it has like I had heard comparisons with Puglet a lot, right? And I went in expecting a kind of
definitely.
more quirky film, a more sort of film that leans on comedy, but this one is very, very sensitive to all its characters, I think. Like it really cares about, I mean, even, the aunts, which are generally the focus of like a lot of easy insults, or like people can very easily like make them villains because they're like gossipy and like they talk about their stuff. I think this kind of doesn't paint them in a positive light as such, but like it does have a very gentle hand towards them. I think it understands all its characters, which is
Very grey
Right.
characters.
I mean, Ram Prasad's positive only lied where it played with its characters all around, and like it makes sense if it's all happening in like one house, and it's like even if there's like 15 characters, each one of them
Definitely.
almost had their own space to
Definitely.
be explored in a way. Not like most of the films you'll see at least like two or like at least like 5-7 characters getting not talked about, and like it's just focused
Yeah,
on
I
like
mean,
5 or 6 major
I mean,
characters, and
I
that's
think
the film. But
the
here
only
this was not the
problem
case.
actually when I had with the film was when it kind of anchors, it kind of makes Konkana Sen Sharma the main character. Like it towards the end, it sort of leans a bit too much on her story, and I thought it lost something there. But I really loved how it focused on Supriya Pathak. I actually think that side of the story is not told a lot, and I think there's one really lovely scene. I think it's the interval point where she is like hiding and watching. So
Where
like on the one side she sees her sons like just coming down of the stairs, and it's almost like they've forgotten about her tragedy, and like on the other side she sees they've already moved
They've
on,
already moved
and then
on
the other
rather
side she
than-
sees the younger generation who also
Yeah.
seem like they actually didn't have any connection with her husband, or like they actually have always moved on, kind of like that. And like that kind of stuff I honestly didn't expect, just because of the Puglet comparisons, I think. And this film really like leaned on those.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Aryan. Yeah.
it shows, the impact that these actors and especially Seema Baba brings from her theater experiences, right? It shows in the blocking and in the camera blocking
Yeah.
and staging of the entire
Right,
sequence.
right.
Yeah, especially that one. And even in the end, when Konkana
Right,
Singh's
right.
character is like descends down those stairs, and she just takes a moment to fix the frame, and it's like those moments like those work so well, and that's the entire thing about cinema, right? Like show don't tell, and I think that movie was like, and even the moments of comedy, like the few jokes and all, most of them never fall as a they work, right? They don't as a feel forced or anything कि इतना time हो गया is screenplay में, so now we need to crack a joke to make sure कि the audience is hooked. Yeah, it doesn't feel that way, and it's very difficult to make films like that, and जो एक ही जगह पे based है, and to also make them ऐसे एकदम coherent. And
Definitely.
it's
And
tough.
I think you mentioned the moment with the photo and correcting it. I love how she corrects it, but it's not corrected completely. It's still like tilted a little bit. Like all those details are really like nice, and I think they kind of add to the richness of the film in terms of whoever the characters are and what imperfections this dysfunctional family has. So yeah, Sanjeet, we'll just complete the appreciation of Ram Prasad Ki Tervi. You can also put your thoughts there.
No, I don't really want
go
to
ahead.
add anything more than this. It's just that, see, what I really appreciate in like in films like these are like the particular things that happen in the film. In these kind of films in general. So, like how you were talking about like that frame, photo frame, and everything, that is very particular, and that is where it level ups in a way. So you can't like there are like obviously moments where you can pick out. I also sort of liked Sagar
Definitely,
Desai's
yeah.
music, which I thought was like added to the whole layer of the film. Yeah. So there's not anything more that I can add to it except that, and also like the camaraderie between these actors and how they play off of each other
Vinay
in a
Pathak
sense,
and all.
and how yeah, and it becomes like a totally different movie also in the middle for like a few minutes,
Oh yeah,
where
yeah,
it becomes
yeah.
like a road movie for like a few minutes. So I like all of these small things that happen throughout the movie, and yeah, those I thought like it could have been longer also, and it wouldn't have been an issue for
I
me in a way.
you
But yeah,
But
I mean,
I couldn't help but while watching it, I couldn't help but constantly ऐसे drive parallels with Adethin Guns, which was also
yeah,
directed by Konkana Sen, and which also
that's
had
true.
ऐसे similar ऐसे अच्छे
yeah, that
cast
also has like a
nature.
lot of
Yeah,
bunch of characters in one
and
place, right?
that movie still remains my personal favorite Indian film based on these themes, and
Yeah.
exploring these dark themes. And it was like it's just difficult not to
Yeah.
think about that
Yeah,
film
no,
while watching
definitely. I
this
mean,
film.
you reminded me, you were talking about small moments, Sanjeet, and you reminded me of, there's a really lovely moment with the middle son who's like, I'm like the middle son who's kind of stuck between the two eldest and like the
Yeah,
youngest one who gets the most affection, and the oldest one
youngest,
always
yeah.
gives the advice. So I'm like kind of lost in the middle. Like all that stuff is really, that reminded me of Kapoor and Sons a little bit. The whole parents have their favorites, kind of like that angle to it, and I really like
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
aspect of it. But yeah, that's
I mean, the chaos also makes sense because it's like all of those themes just fit really well in the whole
yeah,
particular genre that she's picked. Like, first of all, I had anticipated that this could be
yeah.
like a very comedy drama type, very dramedy, like
That's what
how
I
you
thought.
see
Yeah.
like Jolly LB satirical stuff. But I was really surprised because how like the first shot begins, it's like a long take where it goes from outside the house to inside the house, where he's like when Nasiruddin Shah's character Ram Prasad is playing.
Yeah.
He's not playing, but he's like sitting there inside, and that piano is playing, and that tune was very like it's very specifically melancholic to me.
Yeah,
Like I really remember that tune, but
it sets the tone
like
for
I
the rest
thought
of the
that
movie,
set it up really well in a way,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like that imperfectness
Oh
also, like
yeah.
that key which
Fine
is like
tuning. Yeah.
which was like imperfect, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's it's sort of like very classical writing of
Yeah.
how you fit in themes and whatever that you want to do it. It's done very
Yeah.
neatly in a sense. Like that there is chaos, but it's not like Shubh Mangal's Savdhan type chaos. Like it's not like there's like
Yeah.
drama happening. Like the camera is moving from one
I
action to another action or something like that. It's like a little mellowed down, somber
yeah.
because it's supposed to be somber.
What do you guys think of the edits though? Like I honestly felt some of the editing was very strange. Like they fade to black very, like it felt like they cut the film. They cut
Yeah,
the film at the last moment. Like they cut some scenes out of it at the
could
last.
be possible.
At the
That's
like
very
complete last
theater
moment or
theater
something.
type, right? That's a very theatrical.
Maybe yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly, because I think they also made the film considering the fact that
yeah, yeah.
they were supposed to release it
On
in a theater,
first
and it
January.
actually
In the
did
beginning
release
of
in
the
a
year,
theater
Yeah,
early January. It was the first film, yeah, and it's just unfortunate, that people didn't get to see this film in a theater, because that would have been a really good experience. You just can't
I have a
ऐसे
long story about not being able to watch that movie in theater, which I've spoken in like other episodes also. Like how I went to a theater and they didn't let me watch that movie because I was the only guy who went and watched that movie. Then I asked,
Yeah,
then
makes
I forced
sense.
my mom to come with me to watch that movie. So I took her with me, and then they were like, no, 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 two people
You've
also not
taken your
allowed. You
whole
need to have five
family.
people. So they need to
You've
generate
taken
like
the
a
whole
certain
family.
amount to play that
But
movie. So
You should have asked na कि it's not really a therapy. You do know that, right?
but then
um,
that is like some new policy in like these theaters have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Because
so
itna
can't help
matlab
that.
it takes such a big ऐसे investment, then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just massive loss. And already the theater industry has been hit, so
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that was exactly what I told them also. Like, let me watch them. At least we'll generate some revenue instead of like nothing.
Yeah.
I actually, this happened with me with Sandeep or Pinky also, where I had to offer them that I'll buy 3 tickets of yours. Just let me watch that movie.
Go, Good
I mean,
transition,
that
Sanjeev.
keeps
Good
happening here, but
transition.
that then you can't help
To
it.
Sandeep or Pinky Farhad,
To Sandeep.
which is which
Sandeep
I
or
really
Pinky
like. I
Farhad.
think I like more
Yeah.
than Aryan, and I think I like the flaws to me never strike
Yeah.
as much. To be honest, I think it's personal fondness. I think of someone
Yeah,
who
yeah, same.
can balance a genre film like a heist
Yeah.
genre film with social commentary, and I think there are.
Yeah.
I've only seen it the once, so from whatever, and I quite vividly remember it still, which I always think is a good thing. So I think again
Yeah.
the expectation of a Debakar Banerjee film was very much met, and yeah, I think it's just. And that was the only film actually I've watched in the cinema in the past, whatever, 1.5 years. And as much as I'm the person who will repeatedly say that it doesn't matter where you watch the film, it probably also made a little bit of a difference.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟੂਰਿਸਟ ਹੋ?
हरियाणा पुलिस एंटी टेररिस्ट स्क्वाड टेररिस्ट परिवर्तन बैंक
जी अंकल, परिवर्तन बैंक कस्टमर सर्विस।
पिच्छू घास की सब्जी खाएंगे रात को, बड़ी फेमस है यहाँ।
व्हाट आर यू
वो नेपाली थाली मिलेगी?
ऊंची चार पूछ लो बेटा।
अचार।
ऊंची है महिमा। अचार दूर।
अचार।
ऊंची है शोभा।
किसी को तोड़ना फोड़ना करवा लो,
कमल दिखला जा।
लेकिन पासपोर्ट चाहिए।
दक्षिण पुलिस वाले काम छोड़ो।
But yeah, Sanjeev, that's your favorite, right? So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite this year. This is the only film that I watched this year was Sandeep or Pinky Farhad, and I am one of those guys who usually goes to watch movies to theater every weekend. So that is why it's become a little difficult for me to watch movies on these platforms, because I actually have to put effort into watching them on my laptop. But for going to theater, that was like
It's
not
more
an
like an
occasion, but it was like a
experience,
routine.
you know? Yeah, it's like an
A routine.
experience.
Matlab, experience for sure. Which is why I liked watching in theater. But it was a routine.
More like a ritual.
Every weekend, going was it's like normally living my life. But then Sandeep or Pinky worked really well for me. I've watched it 3 times now, more or less. Once in the theater, and then the next time was the day it arrived on Prime. And it worked much better for me on Prime because it was a second watch. That's a different issue. But some of those movements and some of those detailings I picked out on the second viewing rather than on the first viewing. But that happens with a lot of Dibakar movies in general also. With Byomkesh Bakshi also, I picked out a lot of details on my 4th or the 5th watch. So that's why, we've done an episode on Sandeep or Pinky where we've spoken about what all we like, and there's a bunch of it. So there's not much I can say beyond that. But it's my favorite this year. I don't even have any complaints in general. I may have 1 or 2, but I can't I don't really want to nitpick on that movie in general.
The biggest
What about you,
problem or the biggest negative that I have of that film is it didn't have a really nice pacing, you know. It is a very well made film. The craft on display is amazing. It's Dibakar Banerjee, it shows in his experience, right, that this might be his most polished film, because it really and the way he it plays with your expectations and all your tropes, right from the title of the film, Sandeep or Pinky, the character name ka to wo hai hi subversion, but then especially the ending, spoilers for anyone, I guess, mild spoilers, but the ending, the way he manipulates the audience manipulation, and it doesn't come across like a cheap move, you know. It makes sense in the story. And it's done so sensitively, the entire bridge wala scene especially. That entire sequence, that is where I was key. I don't care if I don't love a film that much, if I don't end up liking a film, but I would want India to make more such films, and especially Bollywood, because they have the budget compared to other regional films, right? Malayalam cinema and Tamil cinema. And this is what I would want from Bollywood. Films like these.
I mean, it earns every moment. That is what I think is like the best quality about this film. Like every moment, every scene is like properly done. Because I saw a couple of videos about the making of the film also, and how from where they went, like the initial idea to what actually is made is absolutely different. Like it's like two polar ends of what they wanted to make it initially, and then what they've actually ended up making, and the scenes that they've had in the film, and the scenes that didn't make it to the film. Like they wrote it, but they didn't shoot it, and it makes sense why it wouldn't. Like why they would be like an add-up scene rather than just like add to the story.
I mean, I think
or the film in
it's
general.
like for me, I think it's a very simple principle. Like for me, cinema has to work on two levels. Like, and I don't generally say has to on anything, but like yeah, has to work in the sense that it has to be entertaining also. It can't just be informational, right? And to me, it kind. Oh, nice. I like it. Someone else is also joining that party here. But yes, exactly. Like it should do both, I think. I think just doing one thing, and documentaries do it also. Like they can do both. Like I'm not just dumping down documentaries because I think I love a lot of documentaries like that. But yeah. So next, I would say. Sorry, go ahead.
Like the entire purpose of cinema is like people go expecting stories, right?
Yeah.
They don't want as a moral lessons to be thrown at them. It is important because cinema has that power to bring a change and evoke a sense of sympathy and empathy within the viewers. But it should be done organically.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can defend Sherni right now, Sanjeet.
Yeah, like you, I know. I quite like Sherni.
Okay.
But
I actually listened to
purely
that
because of,
episode,
like,
Sherni wala.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that
okay,
because
okay,
there was
okay.
like proper as a agreement and disagreement, and it was all done so respectfully. So I was like, yeah. And the Sherni was, it makes for a good moral viewing, but when it comes to as a just storytelling and
very
all,
happy.
it had yeah.
I'm very happy to see
was
people
kind of a
on this
mixed bag.
side of the camp.
No, but then see, apart from whatever Sherni's, I dig that kind of
I
style
know,
sort
of
of
course,
because the whole meandering, that whole hunt was like very fascinating to me. And the thing is, I wouldn't have liked Sherni for whatever various reasons stated by Dhruv himself, which also makes sense in a way. Apart from the subjective nature of it, there are objective issues also in it. But it's like it stayed with me all through this time. Like it's been a month and a half already, right? Which I kind of use like a barometer of how that film was to judge a film in a sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Sherni, if I like, that is one of my favorites this year. So apart from like Ram Prasad, Sandeep Pinky,
No, I think
Sherni is
again,
kind of-
I saw it after sort of reading the praises a little bit. So maybe again, all that might impact whatever I have. My opinion on it, but yeah, clearly, I told in that episode also, I repeatedly said it's like very admirable what the film is trying to do, right? It's to me at least it is. It's So it's just the execution which I think didn't work for me.
आपके जंगल का टाइगर हमारे लिए बहुत खतरा बन चुका है. इसका कोई हल है आपके पास?
और जब यहाँ मुसीबत आन पड़ी है तो एक लेडी अफसर को यहाँ भेज दिया है.
काफी तारीफ सुन रहा हूँ तुम्हारे काम की.
मैं सब हैंडल कर लूंगा.
क्या प्लान है आपका?
ये प्लान कुछ नहीं है, गॉड्स गिफ्ट है. सब कुछ इधर है.
फिर लोग अपने जानवरों को चराने कहाँ ले जाएंगे सर?
जहाँ चाहे वहाँ ले जाए, कोई हमारा ठेका थोड़ी है. हमको बेसिक चिंता करनी चाहिए.
So something that did work for me is Haseen. Never mind. I'm not gonna go into that pitfall because Sanjeev, because we'll get into like a 1 hour argument.
No, go ahead. It's okay. I would like. I appreciate filmmakers making films that are divisive and that make people, let's say, excited about disagreeing and agreeing. Yeah, about arguing and having those healthy conversations rather than a filmmaker who just chooses to make safe films.
Which is part of the thing about the whole of Hindi cinema, right? Like we are getting. So I was just thinking that our favorite films this year, except for Seema Pava making Ram Prasad Ki Tervi, which is like a new filmmaker making a new thing. like our favorites are so like it's so predictable what the favorites for like people who are interested in cinema, like unke favorites kya honge, like a Dibakar Banerjee film, a Neeraj Ghaiwan film, a Abhishek Chaubey film. So like it's just like, yeah, of course these films will be your favorites because these are good filmmakers, right? So it's like at least I mean, my Haseen Dilruba is a potential landmine, okay? Like I kind of understand and appreciate its landmine quality. Like I think it's like I saw responses where people were like, "Oh God, it's like completely misogynist and sexist," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I did not see that, but I can see why you saw that." You know, like that controversial nature of it, I liked because I fairly laughed in it, which is like a big thing why I didn't mind it entirely, because I thought the entertainment quality of it was there. Does it completely slip up in the finale? I think it completely does. I think it, like, to me, the film was something about female, whatever, domesticity and empowerment until it becomes about a toxic relationship. And the moment when it becomes about a toxic relationship, I thought that I was completely overreading it. And I thought I was completely on another page for it. And I got conned into thinking so, but I enjoyed while I was getting conned into thinking so, right? So it's basically that for me, why I kind of don't mind it. So is it one of my favorites? No, but it's got a bunch of flaws. Like we will not, like if you are sitting there to write down the flaws of it, it'll be fairly unending list of flaws, but I thought it was amusing.
Purely on an entertainment basis, you admired, you had a fun time watching.
Yeah, I had a fun time, and I really liked Taapsee Pannu in most things, so I thought she was good in this also.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you know, I feel we as people, in fact, are way messier than the characters that we portray on screen or the characters that we cook up. For the simple reason being that, you know, me as a writer, I have to kind of give a justification of why they're mad to the audience, and in real life, as humans, we don't need to give any justifications and we can be completely erratic. Having said that, you know, I tend to gravitate towards characters that are not perfect, that are not complete, because you know, I feel that if there is no void to fill, I feel that if there is, if everything is perfect, there's nothing to really look. And then if I want to open it up, I'd like to say that, you know, all of us go through these point of conflicts, all of us go through these situations, but usually we have very sanitized versions of characters that are portrayed on silver screen.
Yeah, it doesn't get messy.
It doesn't get messy because usually, you know, the heroine is always the most beautiful, she has the best hair, she sings in a perfect voice, all the men love her, you know, God loves her or him, and everything, divine justice is like beautifully laid out for all these characters. And you know, in real life it never happens. You know, we just keep waiting for that perfect moment to arrive in our lives, and it really never happens.
I think Vikrant Massey was way better, like in terms of performance. Shouldn't be compared.
I quite like Taapsee Pannu as well. Like I've liked her most of her films. Even films like Game Over and all, which people don't even talk about anymore, which I thought was like really good.
Okay.
And
Game.
Yeah, I thought like the bunch of ideas that it had.
I thought Game with Kangana Ranaut and Abhishek Bachchan. Sorry, Game Over is very
No,
good.
she wasn't there in it. No, Game Over, which came out in 2019, if I'm not wrong, 2019 June or something. Yeah. So I quite like Taapsee Pannu, but then Haseen Dilruba was questionable on like various fronts for me in terms of like screenplay and writing. Only like the thing is, I wouldn't generally try to pick out faults while watching the movie. It's more or less post the film that I'll try to like think, okay, what did I like, what I didn't. And first of all, I didn't enjoy the movie like how Dhruv did, but it was more like where is like the setup, like proper setup to anything that you're trying to do. Like even the banter didn't make sense to me. So
I mean
that is.
But then, I mean, do you not appreciate a film which is that divisive? Like I think what Aryan said, right? At least it's divisive.
I mean, I'd appreciate the fact that someone has a divisive opinion and that opinion as well. like you sort of justified it, which makes sense. Like the whole Rab ne bana di jodi factor, which falls into the whole
dark side of
Vikrant
Rab
Massey
ne bana di jodi.
sorry,
basically,
Taapsee
yeah.
Pannu's yeah, sort of like that. So I mean, nobody thought like that. That is what I'll appreciate rather than the film, because I didn't like anything to be appreciated. I mean, but then it's like I don't think so. Kanika Dhillon is that good a writer to. I mean, she's recycling her themes, which I don't have an issue with, which none of us should have an issue with. But it's like, do it better.
Yeah. Like those themes that she's trying to focus on, like even if it's a toxic relationship based a movie, so I don't mind seeing that, but do it organically, do it in a way that feels ki it's reasonable.
It needs someone. I think direction also. If someone needs to like Man Marzia had a sort of messiness to it, which kind of helped. Communicate that messiness. I think better. The direction of Hasin Dilruba is a little too loud. I think for me, especially because it's like
even Kedarnath, which she wrote, the thing that like overpowers her writing majorly is the incident that happens in the end, right?
Titanic,
like the Kedarnath tragedy. Okay. Whatever. I mean, the tragedy sort of like. And that part can only be directed. The second half of the film is all direction. You can't like, and it's not like a very particular direction in general by Abhishek Kapoor, but it's like it doesn't let you think about the writing in general, because you can only direct those.
It was so evidently a plot-driven film rather than being a character-driven film, which is unfortunate because it had actors like Taapsee Pannu and Vikrant Massey, and which were layered characters. At least Vikrant Massey's character was. Taapsee Pannu's character, I was like okay, like going from one essay state of mind to like it felt inconsistent.
She does psycho
also,
characters, right?
I know this. Yeah, I mean, it's become like a thing, but in all her other films, it becomes so. It makes sense, seeing her in those characters.
Yeah, even Judgmental actually makes more sense, to be honest.
Definitely. Yeah. It had interesting. See, that's when I would like to compare this film with films like Judgmental Hai Kya, because that film was divisive, but it was well crafted, right? It was well crafted rather than just a bunch of scenes thrown together. Beach mein ye aa gaya. There's this car chase sequence, and then there's this terrace sequence, and it's just very.
And I mean, I really like Kangana's character also in that, like.
Yeah.
I mean, even though whatever flaws in the film, that's not to take in point, but that character was at least well played.
The first half of that film is really good, I think. The second half, it kind of doesn't know what to do.
Definitely.
Same.
I thought it will go into some really, it will take a left turn, which
even
I
the
won't
direction
expect.
for that film is much more like confident, I think. Like it's very like it knows how to shift between one state of mind to another state of mind, kind of like that. Okay, enough of Hasin Dilruba, I'm guessing, right?
But wait a second, I would like to actually add something. Like, I know that technically it isn't a 2021 film, but since it got available on Netflix to stream, and since most people watched it after it got available on Netflix, I think we should mention the film E Baleu.
Oh yeah. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
I also
last year I watched it last year, and that was my I guess in my top 10 list. It was my number 4 film of that year.
Same.
It was like it was great. The ending, and it's just so penetrating. It works on all. And I've rewatched it. Like I watched it 3 times now, and it just it keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's a very. I mean, no, go ahead, Sanjeet. Sorry.
No,
I think it's just I didn't count it as this year actually, that's why. But yeah, that film's really really inventive. Like it's also, I remember at least that it's got a lot of open ends or like loose ends in the end. Like there's a lot of mystery still in the film. Like there's no like closed loop of this happened. Like isn't there like this is from what I remember. There's that whole suggestion about his childhood, like where he used to put nail polish on his hands, right, or something like that. Like there's a suggestion of what his sexuality is. Like there's a lot of things going on in that film, and
there's a lot of things that are just implied, and then it's just up to us to interpret them, and that is what makes it even more scary and even more unsettling by the ending, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the part of the experience, and it was such a well crafted film, and it shows ki the director knew the story that he wanted to tell, and I guess it was written by the same guy as well. I forgot his name. It was produced by
No, it
Anurag
was written
Kashyap.
by someone else. If I'm not wrong.
Okay.
It was written by someone else called Shubham. I don't remember the director's name actually.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an FTI graduate, is what I know. But it was written by someone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Anurag Kashyap and Vikramaditya Motwani were presenters of the film. Even I watched it last year, so I didn't consider this releasing it like considering in the list at all.
Yeah.
Although I did rewatch it, like not the whole film, but I rewatched the first half, like first 40-50 minutes this year.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's like 10 years or 15 years down the line, it will be like a masterclass of how you do a satire.
It will be a benchmark film.
Like how Jaane Bhi Do Yaro was like a masterclass of how to do satire for like a lot of years. I think that will be Bollywood will be like the newer age ke liye.
Definitely. But a lot less comedic and
it's much darker, to be honest.
Definitely. But it's like the newer age that also comes into play.
Yeah, it's got the whole social media thing also, right? Or is it not? Like he gets popular because of the whole
Yeah.
I feel it's universal in the sense that it's a product of the times we're living in. Be it India or anywhere in the world. And it's about a migrant story, it's about a man versus system story, it's about the monkeys, There's a certain kind of universality to it. And the universe seems familiar but not so familiar, So that I think is sort of connecting, and the humor. Right. And the humor obviously is sort of cutting through, cities, cultures, audiences. Personally, I feel that's pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but
the next is like the short, the anthologies, which are like. So I mean, is it? There's no surprise that the one good thing about Ajeeb Dastans is the Gili Pucci short, right? Which is probably my
that is the
my
only
favorite thing of
about,
this year is probably
anthology.
The Gili Pucci short. I've honestly not stopped thinking about it. I shared it with one of my professors actually, and he loved it. And like it's and we were talking about it in comparison to Thappad, because we were comparing like how people tackle social issues in films and all that, and whatever the whole thing. My only thing with the film was, the only thing I've been thinking about is the film a little too much just concept based, like concept based in the sense that it's very deliberately structured in a way that the characters are like we're talking about intersectionalities, right? Where it's like their characters are female, lower caste, like it's like a combination of a lot of things. So everything against. So a part of me was like, is this too conceptual? Like, is it not working on a human level? But I think the actors and like the performances and even the whole thing about Ajeeb Dastans, the twist part of it is so well integrated into like their personal politics, that none of it comes across as artificial or like putting across a message. Like it's so beautifully told, and I mean Konkana Sen Sharma is phenomenal in that film. Like I was watching Ram Prasad Ki Teri and I was like just waiting for her to come, not because the film wasn't engaging me, but like just it's been like she brings something of an energy to of her own.
I mean, easily one of the better actors.
Definitely.
In
and she and just it's so lovely. It's like it's done. I remember the most heartbreaking moment is when she says what her real name is, and then Aditi Rao Hedri just like retreats her hands back from her, and it's like the moment where she realizes these things are like completely so unequal and never going to be completely fine. But I do really like how she uses. And this is a spoiler for whoever's not seen it. And if you haven't seen it, please skip towards the third section of Ajeeb Dastans and just see that. Because the first one is probably one of the worst things I've seen the whole year.
Worst things ever.
And so, the revenge section of the film, which is her basically using like people's, like she uses the female empowerment or whatever, disempowerment against Aditi Rao Hedri just to move upwards in terms of her class status, which is very, very like, it's a very pointed thing. It's very deliberate. And it, to me, I know some people really championed that moment. Like it was like a big triumph. To me, it's like both a happy moment for her, but it's supremely bitter. I think, it's like that realization that there is always going to be this inequality, and like just to get over one form, you have to like exploit the other form of it. And I think that element is like just heartbreaking to me. Yeah.
It shows this really well ki if you oppress someone without, I mean, it's very abstract, I know, but if you oppress someone for so long, it's going to act like a rattle cage, and at some point it's going to break free, and people are going to, do these shitty things, and they'll always keep justifying those things because it is coming from some place of, systemic inequality, right? And it, even the film, like the way Neeraj gave like Aditi's character, it isn't a black or white character, right? It's grey, and it doesn't make us hate her character. Like, it doesn't make us turn against her character. It rather shows ki how she herself is a victim in a way, to over exaggerate a bit over here. She's a victim of the overall patriarchy system, she's not, and plus her husband also, he is just a man who wants to like love his wife, he just wants some affection from her. He's not thinking about these things, but at the same time he's also not acknowledging it, which is a problem, and it's a systemic problem. There's no villains there, and it's very difficult, no matter we can judge a film like that, right? But it's actually very difficult to write characters like that, and that too in 43 minutes. Like, oh my god, that's great.
आइए ना, हम आपको छोड़ दें।
आज कुछ खास है क्या?
आज हमारा दही बड़े खाने का मन है। आइए। भैया, थैंक यू। ये आपकी। अच्छा, आप हमसे कह रही थी ना, आपके फ्रेंड्स कौन कौन हैं?
फ्रेंड्स? दशरथ।
अरे वो नहीं, जैसे बेस्ट फ्रेंड।
जैसे वो कविता जिसकी स्कर्ट पैंट ही तुमने लाल कर दी।
आप कैसी गंदी बातें करते हो?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the strength also lies. I think the way it was directed. See, I think most of these films which have this social issue type of thing, right? What they do is they focus only on the social issue and not on the whole story or the film or whatever, right? I think that is where the prowess of the director also comes in. And like Neeraj Ghavan's direction is only the one that is carrying the film. Even if like a moment could be as on the nose as like that scene where she tells her name, right? That could be like a very on the nose kind of a moment. But then how he directs that moment and how he leads up to that moment also is like well earned and everything. It's like well done.
Also when they're cutting the cake, where, right? She's that mirror separating them. She's outside the office standing. It creates such a visual parallax, And it tells us, it makes us feel exactly the way he intends to make us feel.
And it's not about the subtle nature of the whole film or anything at all. Like, I think it does want you to see those things, like she's drinking in a different glass and all those things. But the thing is, it's done really well. Like, it comes in at a very good point. It doesn't come in like early on. It doesn't come in anywhere else. It comes in at the end, and it sort of makes sense also in the whole narrative. I mean, this is just a very personal opinion in a way, but I thought everything just makes sense wherever it is placed. It doesn't like overlap each other or it comes earlier or later and whenever it has to. So I try to
justify it's not that good first when I was like, oh, it's just following absolutely garbage things that played before it. But no, it's just I think just separate those other shots from it and just focus on one film and just watch that. But I think I messaged Sanjeet yesterday saying that that's like an encapsulation of Bollywood films in general. Like the third film in an anthology is sandwiched between absolute nonsense, which is like one
because even they know, right? Ki it's so evident that they know ki once people start getting into it, then there's no way off. And it's so deliberately placed like that.
I mean, but I actually thought, why third though? Like, why not first or last? Because I thought those are the ones which are like the most sort of, oh, we'll get you into it or we'll finish off on this. This is like just bang center. And I was like, really? Like, also the problem with Ajeeb Dastan is that it doesn't have the episodic separation, right? It doesn't have 1 episode, 2 episode, 3 episode, 4 episode, which Ray has, which is I'm transitioning here.
No, I guess it had. It did.
Did it have? It doesn't have it on Netflix, or at least it didn't have when I first saw it.
I don't remember.
So I actually had to watch
Yeah, even
first
I
and
don't
second
remember,
to
but
go to
maybe
the
now it
third.
has.
Should we talk about Ray?
Yes, we
At
have
least one
transitioned
of
into
the
Ray.
films.
Yes. So Sanjeet, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
begin. Considering you are you like the most out of them.
I quite I really liked Hangama Hai Kyo Barpa, which I thought was like, see, I think with most of these films, these anthologies in general, what happens is, see, first of all, this is just a general observation that I've had, that most of these short films that are made, that are being made or have been made or whatever, like that are particularly made for as a short film, they're very concept driven. Like there has to be some concept, like either like some film has like a BDSM thing that is happening, or like a very particular social issue that they're talking. So they're very concept driven, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is where most of these films falter, because instead of like working towards that concept, they don't integrate that concept in the whole story. Like even if it is there, it is focusing for you to drive to that whole that whole concept. It is taking you there to that whole concept or anything. Like even if it is like a social issue, like what do you call that? Like violence inside inside your own houses. What is that?
Oh, domestic
term?
violence. Yeah.
Domestic violence. Sorry. I forgot that word. So it takes you through those characters to that whole concept, but there is no story around it, and that is the whole struggle. But I think with both Ajeeb Dastan's third shot, Gili Pucci, and Hangama Hai Kyo Barpa, I think that is where it succeeds. It's not towards that concept or thing. Even if it is, the way it integrates those characters into that whole narrative and to fool you into believing the whole idea or the whole concept, I think that is where it succeeds majorly. I mean, I'm just talking like in a certain sense of looking for a formula. But even as a film, Hangama Hai Kyo Barpa worked so much better, and in the most rightful way paid tribute to Satyajit.
I
Like,
don't even
his earlier
understand
films
what
and
the
everything.
anthology is supposed to do. Like, is it a tribute or is it like just a adaptation? Or
I think
I
it
think it's an
celebrates
easier
the
sell.
100 years of race cinema.
I mean,
It was mainly.
No, anthologies in general are like an easier sell to
Yeah,
people.
definitely, but like on paper it was because, and they found an excuse of
the idea
for
was
sure, yeah.
tribute. So it's so strange to me then, because the only tribute comes across in Abhishek Chaube's film. Like all the others just feel like variations of like they're so director driven. Like they're not even like Satyajit. Like tribute would be like not aping a style, but like mimicking at least some qualities, right? And Hangama Hai Kyo I mess up that name always, but whatever. Like that shot has the strange thing with that shot to me is that I like it, but I think I've kind of forgotten it, which is not the best marker. I guess forgotten in the sense that it's like it was enjoyable while I kind of just watched it, and then it was like, oh yeah, it was good. Like it was one of those films that was charming and which had like a great cast and everything. And but now it's kind of like faded in my memory at least. So maybe that's that's one thing. But again, it also came at the back of two films that I didn't like very much. So
Two really bad.
So
surprisingly, I really liked. I didn't love it, but I think I liked the first film as well in the anthology. Forget Me Not, I guess it's called.
I can understand that. So yeah.
I like that, and the second one was just, oh my god, like that was.
Second one is on a level of Ajeeb Dastan's first, I think. Just unimaginably bad. Like,
Yeah.
The third one, Hangama Hai Kyo Barpa, as Sanjeet said, I vividly remember it mainly due to the amazing electrifying chemistry between Gajraj Rao and Manoj Bajpayee, and especially Gajraj Rao. Like, he's so good at playing these characters, and the transitions
the
by
transitions are
Abhishek
very
Chaubey, the direction,
Yeah.
that's probably the main reason why I can't, like, I still have vivid memory of watching it on Netflix.
fair
Like,
enough.
the transitions were so well done, and it's difficult to imagine any other director than Abhishek Chaubey directing that particular episode.
Yeah. Very hard. Yeah.
तो तब से मेरी इच्छा थी कि मुझे एक कहानी को अडेप्ट करने का मौका कभी मिले, और मैंने एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट जो मैंने पहली जिंदगी में स्क्रिप्ट लिखी है वो एक रे साहब की शॉर्ट स्टोरी का अडेप्टेशन था, और पता नहीं मुझे इतना कॉन्फिडेंस था कि मुझे राइट्स भी मिल जाएंगे, जो कि नहीं मिले ऑफ कोर्स। तो तो एक तरीके से ये जो फिल्म का जब मुझे मौका मिला बनाने का, एक तरीके से मेरे जो शुरुआती एम्बिशन थी कि मैं एक रे साहब की शॉर्ट स्टोरी पे फिल्म बनाऊं, वो उसको पूरा करने का मुझे मौका मिला।
I mean, the whole Abhishek Chaubey factor comes into play in the most best possible way that is like can, because the whole idea about this one, first of all, it certainly fits in his style of making like that Ishqiya films, and then making this make sense, and how this goes from this guy who's like drunk in his power, in his not his power, in his popularity, in a sense, and whenever he's like looking at a mirror, he's not looking at himself, he's performing, right? So, I mean, all those things were like really well done. I mean, so yeah, that is one of my favorite films. Actually, it is difficult to pick out like an anthology of one part and talk about it, because it's not really the whole film. But then there isn't much to talk about in
I mean,
most films
Spotlight you
that are
didn't mind though, which you've talked about Spotlight in your episode.
Yeah,
so,
I really like Spotlight. Yeah. Spotlight
again,
I really like, but that is also another personal bias towards like films that are about films or filmmakers,
the thing is, I wouldn't have minded Spotlight as a singular film. Like, I just don't understand the Ray tag. I don't get the
I would
Ray
rather rewatch Nayak again.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything more on Nayak, considering I'm not the biggest fan of Nayak. But
no, I'm talking about the original Satyajit.
The Satyajit Ray, right? The hero on the train. I am not the biggest fan.
That big a fan of.
Let's not step in that direction.
But then I quite like Spotlight. At least there is like the whole comedic factor also that comes into play.
Very
enjoyed
Vasan though.
Whatever
like,
that 1 hour.
Like, he has a very distinctive
Vasan
taste, which is very I appreciate actually.
Yeah.
But under a Ray banner,
he's coming out with a new. He's coming out with a new film, which I hope.
I mean, I really like Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota. I know it's a bit too energetic for some people. I know I took my parents and my dad and my grandmother to see it, and they were like, "What is this?" But yeah.
But what else?
I mean, Tribhanga was there.
Milestone, right? Yeah. Milestone is Tribhanga, but I didn't watch it.
You guys talk about Milestone. I've seen it, but again, I'm the outlier.
I just finished watching before recording
Go
this.
Ahead.
वो बहुत दुखी थी मैडम जी, इसने बिल्कुल भी परवाह नहीं की।
दोनों को बहुत मानते हैं जी वैसे।
यार, एक पुराना कस्टमर है, उसका आज आखिरी लोडिंग है, आज रात को ही जानी है। इससे मिले तुम? शागिर्द बना लो इसे।
प्रधान कहाँ है?
पागल हो गया वो। अब रात में ट्रक नहीं चलेगा तो काम कैसे चलेगा?
I mean, first of all, I really like the whole idea of this character as a truck driver, which I don't know why it never struck to me. Like, so if you've seen like whole Paul Schrader's interviews about Taxi Driver and everything, he's like, I wanted to make a film about this lonely guy, and okay, pick out a metaphor or like a job that could like serve as a metaphor, which he picked as like a taxi driver. And it makes sense here also. I was like, why did I never think of this if I ever wanted? Because Taxi Driver is my holy grail, and like my all-time favorite film that I can watch anytime at any place. which I'm really cursing myself that why I never thought about this truck driving thing as like a metaphor. If I ever wanted to like ape taxi driver in a sense. So I mean that is one thing, but in general, I don't know if the lead character, the lead actor
Surrender Vicky.
is an actor, which is a very Ivan Iyer thing, because even in Sony, I didn't know if those characters were actors in by profession. I thought they were like real life personalities because they performed it so well. Yeah, and this Ivan Iyer thing of like taking like one like workplace and like making it the whole, you know. Directing the shit out of that place.
Do you remember? Does this one have a lot of long takes? I don't remember particularly well. No,
not
as much
so
as
much
Sony,
as
right?
Sony.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It has long conversations. The conversations that are
does,
there,
it does, yeah.
those are long takes, like single takes, and the opening sequence as
I mean, the
when
whole-
he's yeah, and
that whole workplace where he's just carrying those
and
things.
did you just, if I'm not wrong, that's what you meant, right, Sanjeet? You said ki the metaphor doesn't work really well, like him being a truck driver. That why is he a truck driver? That's what you meant, right? When you compare it with taxi driver.
I didn't get you. Sorry, can
Like
you
you were
repeat
saying ki, the metaphor you didn't get of him being a truck driver.
that? No, I liked it.
Okay,
I
okay.
liked that
Yeah,
whole factor.
thank God, because
You
no,
didn't
I
get
did
it?
because I thought क्योंकि the audio was cutting बीच में थोड़ा सा, so I thought you were saying कि, and that's why
okay,
you were
okay, no.
comparing it with Taxi Driver, and I especially, that's the thing that worked for me because it literally symbolizes, and it shows कि his body is like like an old machine, it is literally breaking down. And
Back is paining. No, back pain is also
Yeah.
linked to the whole getting fined and not getting
Like
fined.
literally, it's like he is carrying the entire burden of his workplace and job and his entire thing on his shoulders. If you want to look too much
He's
into
working
it,
double shifts and whatever.
and even the conversations, like it's so in the moment, right? It doesn't feel like it's written or anything. It doesn't feel very filmy.
Yeah.
All the conversations, and even in the end when. Like towards the end when the young character offers him money samne se after initially denying it to him, and then the entire thing when her sister calls him, and the Surrender Vicky's lead actor, the main character of the film, he's talking with her, and for the first time we actually look at him, we actually see him from the outside. And
From
it's
the
just
glass.
the transition, and it's just so blurry, and there's rain, and it shows his character, like it just worked. The visual storytelling in that film was subtle, and it worked for me. It felt atmospheric.
I mean, I'm quite excited about what Ivan Iyer makes next.
He's a promising filmmaker.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Because this whole idea of taking one workplace and like
Expanding into it.
building the
I
whole
mean-
story around it with one character, focusing on one character, it's like the most, like the almost like a perfect way to.
His style
write
doesn't
it
seem very
in a sense,
commercial
yeah.
friendly, but yes, definitely. I mean, his style
Yeah.
fairly.
But then it's
large.
like Netflix friendly, right? So
I mean, Netflix friendly by by
Netflix
what
can
you mean
afford
that
that.
they'll, if they publicize it, yes, because I didn't see it publicized after like half a week.
Yeah, it wasn't that much publicized. I thought Sony was much more publicized than Milestone in a sense. Like this came out of like I knew about this film coming.
I don't think Milestone did that well at festivals.
No,
Not that
it
well,
did.
but
I
they
don't think so
didn't
it
do
did.
that well at festivals, from what I know.
Yeah.
Or like whatever, like not as well as Sony did at least. I have problems with Milestone, so but I know that you guys. I mean, again, my problems are more to do with I don't think the realism
No,
of the
I
story
get that, I
sometimes
get that.
gels with the poetry of the story. So like the whole, the rain happening,
So
like
I haven't had the time to think about it so much. But
the
I
rain
get
happening
your
at the
point, yeah.
moment and the back pain going, and there are a couple of dialogue moments where like it is very I hate to invoke this comparison, Imtiaz Ali, but it has that sort of idea into it, which I think rubs against the realism, which I really liked in Sony.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I'm being the harsh person here, but that's what I had thought. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Uh,
But then in general, I don't think so. This year has been like really bad in terms of whatever 6-7 months of
Yeah.
films that have come out. It's been like supremely bad. I distinctly remember like a lot of films, like since it was like the beginning year of like the whole pandemic coming and the OTT rise or whatever, I thought the kind of films that never got its due were getting their due with like Bhosle and what else? Kadak, which was Rajat Kapoor film. And what else was there? What was that movie about that kid which I really liked?
Satyanshu Singh. Yeah.
They're stuck in Iran.
Oh, Chintu Ka Birthday. I really like that also.
Chintu Ka Birthday. Yeah. So I mean, all those films were there. Then Kamyab was there. Thappad was there. And all of these were my favorites amongst like and an Anurag Kashyap film and a Shujit Sarkar film didn't even make it to my best of the year list.
Choke. I mean, I don't think that made it to many people's list, Sanjeet. But there was no.
Yeah, but this is like talking like last year, and even before that, I really remember like a lot of films that had come out a year before that also were like really
2019
good.
was a really nice year.
One was that Son Chidi had come out,
2018
Photograph had come out, Gully Boy, Mard Ko Dard, Sony.
And this year I haven't watched these two films, but I am planning to because I have been hearing a lot of good things about them. Nail Polish and Kagas. These are both on
Nail
Z.
Polish wasn't good.
It wasn't?
Nail Polish.
I've been hearing good
no.
things about it. And
what are these movies? Can I please be illuminated? Like, who is in them?
No. Nail Polish and Kagas are both streaming on Z5. Kagas I haven't seen, which I've heard is like pretty good kind of movie. Like it's like a feel-good type Pankaj Tripathi in it. And I think it's directed by Satish Kaushik, if I'm not wrong.
This is Kagas.
Which he's made like after a very long time. Satish Kaushik. Like I think he last made was like some Bhoot movie, which was like a remake of a Bengali film.
Nail
But
Polish
anyway,
with
that's
who?
not the point. But like Nail Polish wasn't good. What I really want to watch is Bombay Rose.
oh yeah, this came on Netflix, right? I guess
This is like an animated Indian film, which you don't get to see a lot. Yeah. In March.
By Gitanjali Rao,
Yeah.
who's fantastic
But
in
then-
October. Just to plug that movie always. Yeah.
But I don't know what more to talk about like Hindi films because like the dip is unreal
I think
this year.
we've.
Like, it's
I honestly
gone-
think we've extended this
rather
episode quite a
than-
bit by just talking a lot about the films we really like. Like if we were just to like list them down, it would probably
Not even
take us
5
like
minutes, yeah.
5 minutes to just like say that. Because most of our things are similar, right? There's barely any like divergence in what we think is good, what we think is bad.
Not really.
So yeah, like I'm more concerned about that
But then-
actually. Like just what like there's no unpredictability.
Exactly. I mean, it's just whatever 5-7 films only which were good out of what 30, 40, 50 films that have come out.
And
this year.
it's just.
Which is actually.
But it's also just like very familiar
yeah.
names are making those films. Like it's not like some like you also don't have like the Anubhav Sinha story, which I think I quite like, where it's like he made stuff which was absolutely on one level, and then he started making things that he was actually good at. So kind of like that, you don't get like surprises, you don't get. Risk taking those anyways out
I think
of
this is mainly also because I think this is
out of the thing.
This is
right?
the main factor playing into this. A lot of films have been filtered out, because of the situation that we're in. Because they're only putting out films that are safe, which can work on OTT, and we haven't seen a lot of films that would actually.
I mean, yeah, that is there, but then I think like a film like Kadak or like let's say Chintu Ka Birthday only we haven't gotten films like these, right? Or even like a Bhosle, like Milestone or a film like like say Hangama Hai Kyun Barpa or like even Ram Prasad. They're like good films, but we aren't getting like those hardcore indie films anymore. Like Milestone is like one hardcore indie film, but then like a Rajat Kapoor film or like someone from that kind of a tier isn't making any more movies. Like, so I mean that is what we lack as we and I think other industries, like those Tamil industries have like and Malayalam industries have like capitalized on the downfall of the indie films.
I think Bollywood Hindi cinema really downplayed the entire second wave thing because they were like planning to wait further, back in December and early January when things had started becoming normal after the first wave, when theaters had reopened in almost all the parts of the country. And films like Karnan and all these regional films were released, right? And they were expecting, I think that's what they had in their minds, ki they thought ki let's see how these films do and then let's gradually kick in with our mainstream Bollywood Hindi cinema. But then the second wave jumped in, right? Because they had planned on releasing these movies, 83 and Suryavansham and all those films in March. And Karnan, look at Karnan. Karnan did so well at the box office, and at that time also the cases weren't like it had just plateaued. It wasn't कि बहुत कम आ रहे. There was still COVID, right? But yet it performed really well at the box office.
No, I mean they sent Sandeep or Pinky Farrar as whatever.
And I think
deadweight
finally now this
clear
Bell Bottom
off.
and all these films are finally taking the charge, especially Bell Bottom. Ki they'll be trying. It will be the first major film to release in the theater, and I think that's a good decision. I feel because if the projections and all those are right, and if we go by that. The third wave is expected in October, right? So before that, it would be a good time to, cash into these movies and finally release these films that have been due since more than 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the bigger question, we'll address this sometime else, but it's to do with like how will these big blockbuster movies do on streaming, right? Kind of like the big thing. I don't know how Radhe did.
Yeah,
I have no motivation of watching it. So Sanjeet, whenever you have to watch it 3 more times or 4 more times, so you can illuminate us on the glories of that film.
Aryan, nothing is just I lost a bet to Dhruv, so I have to watch it 3 more times. So I mean that has to happen. But in general, I don't think so. Like I've said this before also. All these big films, all these mainstream big films are meant to be watched on like big screen only. Something came out recently, right? Some big film which I thought was like, which didn't have any impact on me in general. Something came out. Some
A Quiet
big film.
Place too.
Fast and Furious.
No, Tufan. Which Tufan, which is a bad film.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
What other big films
But
there?
but if I would have watched it
that
in
was not
theater,
good.
it would have been like much
too
better than
fun.
watching it on streaming because it felt like a laborious work to just sit down and watch on your laptop, and it's like a 2 hour 40-minute film which doesn't even engage me on any level, and all these like Paranjit's Sarpatta Parambarai came out like a week later, and it was probably like a milestone in like boxing films in India. So I mean, you can
Even
see,
Master,
and
I guess.
Master also was like a theater release, right?
Yeah.
But Sarpatta, I thought like I enjoyed it on my OTT on my laptop, and I wished I'd watched it in theater. I mean, it was
The film
that
that
good.
I felt that way for Jati Ratnalu. The film that no, not that.
Jati Ratnalu I'm yet
Which
to
was that
watch.
film? Naveen Polishetty, the Telugu film. That's what it's
Jati
called,
Ratnalu
right?
was-
Jati Ratnalu.
Yeah, Jati Ratnalu, yeah.
Yeah, I wish that's the only film when it comes to Indian cinema that I wish I had watched in a theater. I wanted that community shared experience for that film. It would have been great.
It's a comedy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fun and self-aware movie. It's really nice.
That goes with Karnan also, in a way.
Karnan is
So-
definitely like even at home it was such a experience.
This was a really good episode. I think we discussed a bunch of films which serve as recommendations also, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those who haven't watched the films that we spoke about, Milestone, Gili Pucci Hangama Ke Barpa, Sandeep और Pinky Farrar, and Ram Prasad Titri.
Most actually we talked about. Quite a lot we talked about.
Sherni, if you'd like to. Or Haseen Dilruba, which Dhruv really likes. So, I mean, these films are all really good Hindi films if you're looking to watch.
I know
in
it went
general.
to those places also. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you Aryan for coming on for this episode.
Yeah, it's been
And,
great.
You can follow Aryan on his Instagram page, Aryan Talks Film. You can also follow us on queenisdead.film podcast and Dhruv on his Instagram page, which is Terminal Cinema, and follow us on Spotify. Share it with people who'd like to listen or like talk about films. DM us your recommendations if you have any. And yeah, this is the episode. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aryan. Thank you, Dhruv.
Thank you.
Yeah.